Here's the intro.
Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. AA Ron.
AA Ron is here. And, you know, the intro normally says, you done messed up, AA Ron. But who done messed up this time is more Scientology cover-up of crimes. So whether we're talking about David Miscavige, Julian Schwartz, when you were in LA, who was your main ethics officer?
Her name was Judith.
And was that at Celebrity Center International?
That was at Celebrity Center International, and that was at the time Sky Fuller, my course supervisor's wife.
That's right. You couldn't remember her name last time.
I couldn't remember her name, and I remembered it.
So Judith Fuller.
Yes.
So in your case, Judith Fuller and whoever was above her and whoever was above her was directly responsible for not holding this Scientologist chiropractor responsible for straight up SA. I'm going to try to keep this video PG-13 due to the nature of the stuff that we're going to be discussing. It may not be possible, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But this practitioner was abusing in an adult manner many patients, and this was reported to Scientology, and they did F all about it. In fact, this whole incident and how it was handled, how it was mishandled, is largely responsible for you leaving Scientology. Is that accurate to say?
Yes.
Okay, so for anyone you know, who hasn't already seen my interview with Yoga Premananda, by the way, I haven't introduced you. My guest is Yoga Premananda. And we did an interview a week or two ago about your story of how you got into Scientology, how you left Scientology, and all that. I will post a link to that full interview in the description below. In that interview, you told the story that we're about to discuss. You have since gone and got the documentation that was on file with the state agencies or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is what we're going to go through today. Before I pull up the document, is there anything of an introductory nature you want to say at all?
Yeah, for me, it was really good to get this document and read it. I wanted to have some closure on this issue because this was a huge thing that I felt like for a long time, had to just, you know, ignore and move on, try to move on with my life. But I had, like I was saying, an attorney friend. If it wasn't for my attorney friend, who's also an ex-Scientologist, he was only a Scientologist for about a year and then he left. If I didn't have him walking me through this situation never would have been handled legally and properly. And so just for so many years, over and over again, I had so many friends also. I think the dangerous thing about being in the bubble of Scientology is that I had not only me, but so many friends that had legal issues that the church was handling in ethics. I had so many friends that had either lost a bunch of money to a Scientologist, but they weren't allowed to sue the person because they were both in Scientology. Or I had another friend who, one of her parents died and she had inherited some money from her parents' death. The church literally took every penny of this girl's inheritance. She was my roommate at the time. Her name was Tara Flowers. They took every penny out of her account. The girl literally had nothing left in her account. She didn't know because she was very young that the IRS was going to come and need to have taxes taken, death taxes taken out of this inheritance money. And then she didn't have money to pay the IRS. And then she went back to the church and said, hey, you guys, you know, took all my money out of my account and now I have to pay taxes on this inheritance money that I got. And so she wound up in trouble with the IRS, and Scientology wouldn't even give her back the amount of money that she needed to pay for. So I saw over and over again so many things that were going wrong because of Scientology telling people not to go the legal route. So for me, this was like, so I went like going through all of that with friends energetically and emotionally. That took a toll on me, watching my friends also go through all that, me going through this with Richard Bernard. So for me, it was important to get this document and read it because it was like me being able to kind of come full circle with this whole situation and so many other situations that were going on at the time.
Yeah. Incredible. The fact that you pursued legal recourse against Dr. Bernard while you were still in Scientology is remarkable. It really is. Okay, so let's bring this up here. And I'll make it as big as I can here. Of that. Give me a second.
There we go.
There we go.
The other thing I wanted to say was that whoever this other person is in the lawsuit with me, if for some reason that person, watches this video or sees this video, we were never allowed to know who each other was. So if she's watching, I would love for her to reach out or comment or somehow get in touch. I would love to connect with her.
That's absolutely. By the way, if you're watching this stream and you haven't yet hit the like button, please do so. It does seem that if a lot of people hit the like button early on, YouTube will push the notification out to the rest of the people who have asked for notifications. So just wanted to say that. Okay, so let's just go through this and see what actually is going on. For some reason, it won't let me highlight it. Oh, jackpot.
There we
I
go.
can highlight. Okay. So the attached stipulated surrender of license and orders hereby adopted by the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, Department of Consumer Affairs as its decision in this matter. God, this is just made official in November of 2020. Incredible. Okay. This, by the way, is all much worse than I even thought it was going to be. I mean, I've already read this through and I honestly couldn't believe it. And you think I would, you think this stuff wouldn't surprise me by now. The facts of this case and the fact that he didn't get instantly declared a suppressive person, the fact that this chiropractor was allowed to continue practicing under the supervision of another Scientologist chiropractor, Dr. Spearman in Los Angeles, really makes me sick. So let's see. This is just some of the legalese. Even that's just more legalese. Even that is more legalese. We're getting close.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. I mean, this is a 37-page legal document.
Yeah.
And it also says that he then owed the chiropractic board, I think it was about $20,000 for this, for them having to go through this with him.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Oral and documentary evidence. See, it only lets me highlight if I'm at a particular Zoom level, I guess. Oh my goodness. This is just frustrating as all get out. All right. It's not letting me do it. So here we go, guys. You guys can read. Oral and documentary evidence was received. The record was closed and the matter was submitted for decision on April 7th, 2016. Okay, 2016. I'm not sure what that other 2020 date was.
Yeah,
Okay.
The 2020 date is that he now no longer holds a license as of that 2020 date to practice chiropractic in California. So now he's no longer holding a license as a chiropractor, but now he's practicing as a health coach under the guise of a health coach.
Okay. So on September 8th, this 2015, complainant executed his First Amendment accusation against respondent. Help me understand here. They're not referring to Dr. Richard Bernard as the complainant here, are they? Did he abuse a man?
Let's see. No. So I think this section is just all about
the license itself.
So this was dragging on. So we put the complaint against him in 2012. So the board was still looking at his license all the way 4 years later in 2016.
Oh, I think in this section, Yoga, the complainant actually refers to the board itself.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to get, I'm just going to go down to the part where it actually documents the abuse, which, yep, here we go. Here we go. Patient TS. Now that's you, right?
Yeah. So that one, that's my.
So when you were in Scientology, you were known as?
Tanya Santiago. So Tanya Santiago. So TS was my initials at the time of this.
Okay. So, let's see. All right. In fall of 2010, a male friend of TS referred her to Dr. Richard Bernard for chiropractic services. Tanya Santiago, you said, right?
Yeah.
Tanya visited Dr. Bernard and paid him for a small service package in addition that included 3 or 4 sessions. Tanya began receiving services from Dr. Richard Bernard in October 2010. All sessions occurred in his bedroom of the boarding house. What was this boarding house he was living and practicing out of?
So it was interesting because he was supposedly OT5 and he was living in this Scientology boarding house. It was a very rundown house near the LA org. Uh, yeah. And so instead of having a proper office, like the room was small, it was dingy, the house was dingy, and like his bed was in the room, and then right next to his actual sleeping bed, he had this little desk and then his chiropractic table. So if that shouldn't have been red flag enough. But
But these Scientology boarding houses usually have names. Do you remember the name of this one?
I don't remember the name of it.
Okay. And so the guy's supposed to be this accomplished physician, OT5, and he's living like a bum.
Yeah.
Okay. And was he a popular chiropractor amongst the Scientologists? Like, what's the deal here?
That's what was weird. Scientology touted him as one of the best
Oh my,
Scientology chiropractors.
wow. Okay. All sessions occurred in his bedroom of the boarding house. Every treatment included a massage, pressure point manipulation, which required Tanya to lie face down and palms up on the chiropractic table. Now, let me ask you a question. Massage is not, well, maybe I'm speaking out of turn. Massage is not normally what chiropractors practice. Was he more of a considered a holistic practitioner, not just a straight chiropractor?
No, he did real chiropractic, but I actually worked for a chiropractor for 3 years in New York before I moved to Los Angeles. So for
Mhm.
3 years, I worked for this chiropractor, and he wasn't
Okay.
Scientologist or anything, but he also did a little bit of massage with his, so it was kinda normal, but not in the way that Richard was
Okay.
doing it.
Okay. Dr. Richard Bernard typically wore baggy clothing, such as sweatpants and a baggy casual top, as opposed to scrubs or casual business attire. During each session, Tanya would fall into a very deep sleep for hours, which was not typical of Tanya. Do you suspect you were given anything?
That's exactly what the Board of Chiropractic was investigating. They thought because of the way that I had testified how out of the blue, like, I wasn't even tired, I would just knock out and, like, fall asleep in his sessions, and the other girl also said the same thing happened to her. So they thought that maybe he was drugging us. So a lot of the investigation was trying to figure out, was he drugging us? But, I had told them that I think that he just knew how to manipulate pressure points on the neck, because
Mm.
every time he would just even start to hit one point on my neck, it was like I would just fall asleep. It's like he knew how to make people fall asleep.
Jeez, he's a freaking hypnotist, this guy. So that's what I was going to ask you because I did notice in the complaint the other woman said the exact same thing. She would lay down and she would like instantly fall asleep.
Yeah.
So were you given any water? Was there any way he could have given you something?
He did give me water, but I don't think it was drugged. I think it was just I think he actually knew how to manipulate the body to make it fall asleep.
Wow. Okay, so by the way, in Scientology speak, my grade 0 is not flat, and there's a word in this document that appears like 100 times that I'm not going to say, so I'm gonna give it another word, okay?
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay.
I think I know what word that is.
During she would okay, so Tanya would wake up feeling, okay, she would fall into a deep sleep for hours. First of all, hours?
Yeah.
My God. Okay, which was not typical of Tanya and would wake up feeling groggy and disoriented. During her third or fourth session, she awoke to Dr. Richard Bernard's sweat dripping on her and his erect unit in her hand. His body was tense and rigid, and he appeared to have had an orgasm. He then moved back from the table, but remained hunched such that his baggy shirt covered his pelvic region. Tanya felt uncomfortable, but did not confront Dr. Richard Bernard about his inappropriate conduct. Instead, she went into a state of denial about what had happened to her. Tanya scheduled one. Okay, let me ask you this. At what point you did not go to the ethics officer after the first incident? You did not
No,
report this to the ethics officer after the first
I
incident.
was in like a weird like shock. I felt like I was in shock. And
Mhm.
one of the counselors that was helping us at the Board of Chiropractic, she was saying that that's normal for a lot of trauma victims, especially with sexual assault. Like you kind of go into shock as a defense mechanism. But then, yeah, it was interesting because the other thing that helped me reading this report was because there was part of me like, why did I go back for a second session? Like I was so upset at myself. And it took me a long time to reconcile that with myself. And but then the other girl, she went for 17 sessions. And then I felt a little bit better about it because I was like, well, she went back for 17 sessions. Like after it happened to me the first time, then I went back for a second session, but then that was it for me. Like I snapped out of it and realized to say something.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the aspects of human nature that unfortunately gets used against victims of this type of assault in a court of law, is like, well, why didn't you do something instantly about it? Why didn't you instantly respond the way people who have never been a victim of this think you should have responded? And it's just the human nature. Sometimes people who are victims of this kind of crime respond in ways that are not what's the word? Intuitive to others. Okay, number 6. Tanya scheduled one more session with respondent. At that session, Dr. Richard Bernard engaged in a similar conduct as her previous session. Specifically, she'd fallen asleep while Dr. Richard Bernard was massaging her back. When she awoke, Dr. Richard Bernard's erect unit was in the palm of her hand. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Dr. Richard Bernard was applying pressure to her hand with his unit. Tanya, no. I wish this thing scrolled better. No longer in denial, got up, left, and never returned. Okay, so this was the second incident, and that was it. Okay, on October 12th, 2011, Tanya filed a complaint with the board concerning respondents' conduct. Now, before filing a complaint with the board, you had already gone to Scientology about this, right?
First, I went to Scientology. Yeah, first I went to Scientology. They said ethics was going to handle it, for me not to do anything. I think maybe like a week had gone by, and I, over the course of that week, kept getting angrier and angrier. And I was like, well, what's happening? What ethics program are you doing with him? Like, what is going on here? So yeah, probably maybe like a week later, that's when I went to my attorney friend, told him what happened, and he is the one that guided me to this board of I didn't even know the board of chiropractors existed. I never would have known to contact them, or that I could put in a report like this with them. So yeah, it was interesting. And then I remember seeing Richard Bernard at a party that week, and he was just sitting there kind of like looking all smug and with this look on his face, like he hadn't done anything wrong. And like, that was it for me. I was like, okay, I'm contacting the board. I'm kind of out of Scientology anyway, so I might as well,
Incredible. Did you actually tell the ethics officer, Judith Fuller, that if they didn't do something that made it look like they were taking this seriously, that you were going to go legal, as they would say in Scientology?
No, at that point, my friend advised me not to tell them anything else, not to keep them in the loop, that it was best for me to just make my decision. Am I going to, if I'm going to tell, then go tell. Do not tell the church, and just to do it that way.
Man, you got great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 7, board investigator Maria Martinez was assigned to investigate Tanya's complaint. During her investigation, Ms. Martinez, among other things, interviewed Dr. Richard Bernard in person. Dr. Richard Bernard denied the allegation and told Ms. Martinez that if anything accidental happened, oops, it slipped. If anything accidental happened, it happened through his clothes. He then said, "What can I say? I'm a real guy." Holy shit.
Can you believe that?
Holy shit.
Like, oh my goodness, this guy has serious issues.
Wow. Not even in a moment of self-preservation can he keep his mouth shut and keep it in his pants, for the love of Jesus. Woo.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. When I read that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 8, at a hearing with respect to allegations made by Tanya, Dr. Richard Bernard explained he did not recall well enough to make a denial about what Tanya accused him of. So first it was like, I don't recall, but if anything happened, it was an accident, but I can't say it didn't happen. I mean, this guy's like O.J. Simpson writing his If I Did It book.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Wow. And this guy was not declared a suppressive person by Scientology, folks. That's one of the main things I want to communicate in this damn video.
And not only that, then he's placed into another Scientologist's office. That's where I was so, oh my God. When I found out that he was practicing in Mike Spearman's office, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? I was like, why are you backing him up? This is so weird.
Wow. Okay, so patients KR and MO. That's 2 other patients.
Yeah, so it's her and her mother, both of them
Oh my
testified
God.
against him.
Do you happen to know if these other two people were Scientologists?
No, that's what I'd really love to know. That's why I'm really hoping whoever these 2 people are that they see this video, and yeah, it would be great to connect with them and just see if
So
they were
to be
in Scientology or yeah.
the fact is, if this guy was practicing out of one of those Scientology boarding houses,
They had to
and
have been Scientologists, right?
they
That's what I
had
think.
to have been
Yeah.
Scientologists.
Yep.
Okay, yes, please, KR and Mo, come forward, please. In fact, I'll say this: there are any Scientologist in LA probably knows who KR and Mo is. If you're under the radar and you just want to confidentially tell me who these people are, that's fine. I won't publicly reveal their names, but maybe I'll contact them directly and ask them. I'll try to find out if they're out of Scientology and if this is something they'd like to discuss. So I would appreciate that. Okay, so patient MO, and so you have no idea who these people are. This is all independently verified information by the state investigator. Okay.
Yeah.
Patient MO had a history of back problems, began receiving treatment from Dr. Richard Bernard in October 2010. In December 2010, patient MO's 23-year-old daughter came from Montana to California to visit for the holidays. KR was experiencing pain at the time of her visit. Consequently, patient MO recommended that KR receive chiropractic treatment from respondent. Oh, the mother must feel terrible that
Yeah.
she sent her daughter to this pervert.
Yeah.
Okay, KR followed MO's recommendation and visited respondent 3 times for treatment. Specifically, Dr. Richard Bernard performed massage treatment on his chiropractic table where KR's upper body was covered only in a gown Dr. Richard Bernard provided. KR's pants remained on. Respondent applied his hands to KR's body under the gown. Okay, I'm going to skip forward. Okay, jumping forward in time. On her 3rd or 4th visit, while massaging KR's back, Dr. Richard Bernard, who typically dressed in a t-shirt, loose shorts, and flip-flops, became shaky and began dripping sweat on KR. It is such a specific detail that gets repeated here.
Yeah.
Sweating on his patients. Okay. Patient then felt something firm pressing and rubbing against her body, which she suspected was Dr. Richard Bernard's unit. Okay.
You're flat on the word unit, but not on the word penis.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. You said the word.
Are we allowed to say that on YouTube?
Yeah, of course you can say it. I just don't want
Come on.
to.
Come on, Aaron.
No, it's not going to happen. Okay.
You're like Mark with the rat tail.
Oh my God. KR did not question or address this with respondent at the time. And that's another example of, people who have not been victims of these type of crimes would go, oh my God, well, like I would have done X, Y, and Z. You don't know what you would have done.
That's why I think maybe MO, maybe the mom, MO was Scientologist, and maybe KR, the daughter, was not.
That's possible.
That's almost what it feels like.
Yeah. Okay. So during her next session with Dr. Richard Bernard, KR had fallen asleep, face down, palms up, as Dr. Bernard performed massage services. When she awoke approximately 2 hours later, how are people falling asleep for hours? There's no way he's not drugging people.
It's the weirdest thing, and waking up so groggy and disoriented, but it's always that, I don't know, there must be some pressure points in the neck as soon as he starts pressing on certain points, and it's such a weird thing. I'm like, what is that?
I mean, you could be right, but I think you're being charitable. I think this guy's drugging people somehow. I mean, if someone can put someone to sleep with pressure points, then I need to hire them to help me fall asleep at night, okay?
Just don't hire Richard Bernard.
Maybe I'll hire Dr. Bernard with some cameras installed or something. Okay, so during her so when she awoke approximately 2 hours later, she felt what she believed to be Dr. Richard Bernard's unit in the palm of her hand. KR moved her palm beneath her thigh. KR did not confront respondent at the time. Okay. Sometime later, KR spoke to Dr. Bernard and told him she felt uncomfortable about his unwelcome contact, but did not use the word unit. She told him she did not wish to continue treating with him. Dr. Bernard did not appear confused or question her about what she meant by unwelcome contact. Rather, he told her that he would consider her communication to be a warning. Oh my God, the frickin' nerve of this guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Thereafter, KR continued treatment. I mean, this is where it gets, juries have a really hard time with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right?
It's because like having to go into that much denial just to try to protect the self. It's like, it's a strange, I don't know if until you experience that, it's such a weird, yeah.
Yes. I wonder, I'm in speculation land here. Is there something you can actually rub on the skin that acts as some sort of a sedative and would put someone to sleep? I've never heard of something like that. Hey, but for you experts in the comments, let me know, is there something that Dr. Bernard could have been using to put his patients to sleep that could be topical? Or shoot me an email at growingupinscientology@gmail.com, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video on that subject specifically. Okay, so respondent said he basically did not abuse her with his unit anymore after that, but KR did notice that he continued. Oh, I'm sorry. I should stop paraphrasing so much. He did not put his unit in her hand anymore, but she did notice that he continued to press his unit against her body. For example, during her third visit, she felt him rub a warm, semi-hard object, which she concluded to be his unit, up and down her arm. This guy is an out and out sexual predator. I mean, this is you Scientologists that watch these videos. These are the people. This doesn't get you kicked out of Scientology. Saying that maybe the ideal org program isn't working as well as people think it is, that gets you kicked out of Scientology. Repeatedly sexually assaulting Scientologists does not. You know, wrap your head around that and tell me how you continue to support this organization. Oh, okay. KR did not confront Dr. Bernard. Instead, KR on August 2011 filed a complaint with the board. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's amazing that she did the same thing. I wonder who advised her to do that. Because like you, if I was being treated by a chiropractor and something happened, I probably would not even have known to file a complaint with such a board.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting too. That's what I do wonder if she... Yeah, because maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe she wasn't a Scientologist, and that's why she went to the board, and then the mom went later. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. So she then also told her mom that she was not going to return to Dr. Bernard for treatment and described the instances of unwelcome contact. After KR told MO about Dr. Bernard's conduct, MO realized that respondent had engaged in similar conduct with her. Specifically, she realized Dr. Bernard had placed his unit in her hand during one of her sessions. Okay, so we've got ourselves just a regular Harvey Weinstein here. Wow.
Yeah.
She moved her hand, which stopped the unwelcome contact. Again, this is another thing that victims, but people who have not been victims of this crime have a hard time understanding, that she didn't even really contextualize or realize what had happened to her until she heard that it had happened to someone else. It really is important for people to understand how that can happen. Okay, so she moved her hand. At the hearing, MO explained that during that session, when Dr. Bernard placed his unit in her hand, she thought, at my age, really? Consequently, she talked herself out of the thought and did not confront Dr. Bernard. But after hearing KR's experiences with Dr. Bernard, MO determined her initial conclusions were correct and decided she no longer wanted to be treated by Dr. Bernard. Interesting. So that's right. So the mother had this experience, never visually saw what was happening, only felt it, convinced herself that really couldn't have been what she thought it was. But then she hears a story that was like, oh shit, that really was what I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's really heartbreaking. Okay, Emma later called Dr. Bernard and asked him why he engaged in inappropriate conduct with her and her daughter. Oh my God, I didn't read this part before. Dr. Bernard did not admit that he had been inappropriate, but told her that she needed to give men more leeway because they had raging hormones. Oh my God. Respondent attempted to offer her free treatments. What the hell? Oh my God. Oh, Maria Martinez must have been like, I've never had such an open and shut case in my life. Okay. And yet, this guy didn't have his license revoked instantly after this investigation. Uh-oh, you're muted. Can't hear you.
Okay, there we go.
It defaulted to your other mic, though. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay. But
your audio sounds fine. Your audio sounds fine.
Okay. Yeah, because I wonder who else this has happened to. Yeah, because we're the only 3 that came forward. I'm sure there were more people.
Yeah. So she did this investigation, which honestly I just said was, black and white, open and shut. And for whatever reason, correct me if I'm wrong, it was after this specific investigation that he was allowed to continue practicing maybe he had like a 6-month suspension. He was allowed to continue practicing under the supervision of another Scientologist chiropractor, Dr. Spearman. Is that correct? Shit, you're muted again, Yoga. I don't know what's going on.
There we go. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's just disgusting. I mean, that is the board not protecting patients. That it really is disgusting. I mean, I wanted to give, maybe it's not up to I don't want to throw shade at Maria Martinez. If her job was to investigate, but her job isn't to mete out the punishment or whatever. I don't know. Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think she did a great job. I know I was grateful for her. I felt like she.
Okay. I'm going to choose to believe that the punishment wasn't up to her.
That's why I thought maybe. Yeah. Because if it was up to her, I think she would have just taken his license away.
Yeah.
Forever.
Okay. So let's see. Board investigator was assigned to investigate KR's complaint. During her investigation, Ms. Martinez interviewed Dr. Bernard in person. During the interview, Dr. Bernard admitted to Ms. Martinez that his unit had touched KR's hand, but suggested the contact was accidental. Oh, it's just flip-flopping in the frickin' wind. He's going commando in pants with holes in them.
Oh my God.
Okay, Miss Martinez noted Dr. Bernard appeared nervous, fidgety, and sweaty. Well, she's just lucky he didn't sweat all over her.
Exactly.
At hearing, with respect to allegations made by KR and MO, Dr. Bernard explained he didn't recall well enough to make a denial about what KR accused him of. It's really interesting. He continued to use that language. It's man. Okay, but did deny engaging in any inappropriate conduct with MO. Oh, so the I'm sorry, KR was the daughter, MO was the mother?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. So he doesn't have enough memory to specifically deny whatever, but he does know that it happened with one and not the other. Like no one, I mean, this guy's just a liar, obviously. No one's going to believe any of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on here. He was compelled to have psychological evaluation. Oh God, I forgot. This gets good because he ends up getting psychologically treated by a Scientologist. Okay, this is amazing. So number 20, on December 2011, the board granted a petition submitted by the complainant here, I believe, is the board itself. Okay. That Dr. Bernard be ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation based on the board's concern that Dr. Bernard may be mentally ill to the extent that affected his competency or his ability to safely practice as a chiropractor. Wow.
I found this part to be so interesting. Yeah, how they deemed him mentally ill.
Wow. In that regard, the board appointed Dr. Ari Kalkstein to complete an evaluation. Dr. Kalkstein, who testified at the hearing, has been a licensed psychologist since 1996. He received his bachelor's degree. Don't care. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, he did a whole bunch of tests. 22. Based on the results of the observation, interview, and testing, Dr. Kalkstein opined that Dr. Bernard was experiencing bona fide neuropsychological deficits, but that the etiology of these deficits was unclear. Because according to Dr. Bernard, he had never been diagnosed with a medical or mental health condition to which the deficits could be attributed. A potential reason for these deficits, according to Dr. Kalkstein, was the presence of ADHD. Dr. Kalkstein concluded that the manner in which Dr. Bernard comported himself portrayed an individual who was potentially impulsive. I'm not going to lie. This all sounds like a lot of gobbledygook to me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, this part is definitely gobbledygook.
Number 23, Dr. Kalkstein believed that if Dr. Bernard's neuropsychological deficits could be ameliorated via pharmacotherapy, with cognition enhancing medications. Dr. Bernard should be allowed to practice as a chiropractor. Dr. Kalkstein explained that if respondent was willing to take medication, he would recommend that after a medication regimen had been stabilized, Dr. Bernard could practice, but under the supervision of an on-site proctor for a period of 12 months to ensure Dr. Bernard could appropriately manage his interactions with clients. Okay. If Dr. Bernard was unwilling to take medication in an effort to remediate his condition and was unable to identify an alternative treatment for his present symptoms, Dr. Kalkstein would recommend that Dr. Bernard not be permitted to practice.
I think this is where Scientology came in, and Scientology wrote a letter. Richard Bernard, I think, went to the church and said, oh, now they want to drug me and label me. And so Scientology got involved, wrote a letter to get him on probation with Mike Spearman and like keep him out of the whole, so it's like the church kind of came in to back him up, and then Mike Spearman backed him up. So, I mean, I didn't want him to be drugged or labeled either. That's not the point. But I just felt like, well, he shouldn't be practicing. And
that's right. Now it does make sense to me that Scientology swooped in, because in their minds, they're trying to prevent this guy from being put on medication. Now, to be fair, Dr. Bernard could have just said, I give up, I'll stop practicing. It was Dr. Bernard who actually continued to create the situation by saying, no, I want to keep practicing, but I don't want to take any medication. And so Scientology swoops in and says, let's see what they say. Beginning July 2014, respondent, Dr. Bernard received more than 50 hours of counseling. That means auditing or sec checking.
Yeah.
From Joseph Hochman, a Scientology minister. Minister Hochman, who testified at the hearing, has been a counselor using Scientology methodology since 1968. As a counselor who cares, oh, he has also worked with hundreds of individuals who have been engaged in inappropriate sexual behavior. Holy shit. That's a Scientology auditor admitting that he has audited or sec checked hundreds of people who have sexually abused others. Okay. I mean, you can't really believe anything in this paragraph, to be honest, but that's how I choose to take it. Okay. In his course of counseling individuals, Minister Hochman provides ethics counseling to help individuals improve their level of ethics and encourages them to own up to what they've done and take responsibility for their actions. He also performs pastoral counseling to help them improve their ability to solve problems and conflicts. Minister Hochman provided Dr. Bernard with ethics counseling and pastoral counseling and required Dr. Bernard to maintain a confessional of his sins. God, this is so cringe. Specifically, Minister Hochman wanted Dr. Bernard to write down all of his sins and then face them. They're actually acknowledging in writing that Dr. Bernard committed to pen and paper all of his crimes.
Yeah. And Scientology, I'm sure, made an amazing amount of money on this.
Yes. And this should serve as evidence to anyone who cares that written evidence of crimes of a sexual nature committed against anybody, including children, exist in the files of Scientology. This paragraph is quite literally evidence of that. Okay. Specifically, Minister Hochman, no, I already read that one. He also wanted Dr. Bernard to read and study a book called The Code to Happiness. They can't even get that right, Yoga.
The Code to Happiness.
Minister Hochman also required Dr. Bernard to take courses designed to address ethics and thinking. None of the hours of counseling included a faith or deity-based therapy. They just said it was pastoral counseling. What the hell else would? How can they say a Scientologist delivered pastoral counseling, say Scientology is a religion, and say that none of the counseling included faith-based or deity-based therapy? Those things don't reconcile in my mind.
And it's supposed to be a religion. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, 26. In August 2015, Minister Hochman concluded that Dr. Bernard no longer posed a threat of engaging in inappropriate behavior, that he was facing up to his actions, and that he had a number of realizations about how he needed to become more ethical. Minister Hochman also explained that Dr. Bernard required no medication, as he believed individuals with ADHD simply misunderstood words. He went to the Tom Cruise School of What Causes ADHD. Okay. Or the L. Ron Hubbard School, I guess. And that helping them understand the words would ultimately reduce agitation in them. Well, send out the frickin' press release. All you need is a dictionary to cure your ADHD. Woo. I mean, I don't believe the guy had ADHD to begin with. The fact that they're actually saying he's like abusing his patients because he has ADHD is beyond crazy to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see the craziness on both sides, right?
Absolutely. So 27, Minister Hochman is not a college graduate, holds no professional license, and is not a certified mental health expert. Then why did they let him do any of this? Oh my God. Okay. Credibility findings. 28, Dr. Kalkstein was a credible witness as he testified in a clear, concise, and forthright way, buttressed by his wealth of knowledge of his years of experience as a licensed psychologist specializing in neuropsychology. Well, it sounds like he has a lot of leather-bound books and his office smells of rich mahogany. So his word must be this guy sounds like a crazy person to me.
Totally.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Moving on. I mean, they literally said he's credible because he spoke right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess how you speak does affect your credibility. But okay, 29. Minister Hochman, though sincere about his craft and his genuine desire to help others, is not a licensed mental health professional and has no education and training in the area of psychology. As such, Minister Hochman lacked the mental health expertise to address the diagnosis ADHD proffered by Dr. Kalkstein concerning Dr. Bernard's conduct. Additionally, he provided no evidence or credible research findings to support his views about ADHD, namely that ADHD is rooted in an inability to understand language. As such, Dr. Kalkstein's testimony was given more weight than that of Minister Hochman. Well, okay, just more weight, huh? 30, notwithstanding this, government code provides that the presiding officer's experience, technical competence, and specialized knowledge may be used in evaluating evidence based on ALJ's experience. Who the hell is ALJ?
That I'm not sure of.
Oh, the administrative law judge.
Okay.
Based on this administrative law judge's experience, spanning nearly 8 years. Okay. I'm skipping forward here. Dr. Kalkstein offered no credible explanation, surmising why Dr. Bernard possessed the need to act out sexually in the first place. Oh, thank goodness. Even the administrative law judge is like, screw Dr. Kalkstein.
Nice.
While this administrative law judge can concede that ADHD could potentially be a factor among many that caused Dr. Bernard to engage in sexual misconduct, accepting that it is the sole factor with nothing more is unsound, absent of evidence of credible research studies establishing that the presence of ADHD is the sole root of sexual misconduct. Thank you, Lord, for the administrative law judge.
Right.
Isn't it? I'm sorry. It does reinforce the Scientology bias that this psych was literally willing to get this sexual offender off the hook with a stupid diagnosis and a little bit of medication. It's actually pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because I like to think I don't still have that lingering Scientology anti-psych bias, but things like this don't exactly help the cause.
Right.
Okay, mitigation, rehabilitation. From 1980 to 1990, Dr. Bernard had a thriving practice in Mill Valley where he performed, well, why do we care about that? For the love of God, fast forward. Okay. Dr. Bernard discussed with Minister Hochman the nature of the complaints and learned a great deal during the counseling he received from Minister Hochman. Dr. Bernard continued performing chiropractic services after the board's investigation, but moved his office from his home to a more professional setting and began working with a fellow chiropractor. That's Dr. Spearman for all you people in LA. Dr. Bernard has no prior record of discipline and had no complaints filed against him prior or subsequent. See, this is insane. He would have had prior records of discipline if other people, they give no regard for people who did not come forward. And,
the one thing I wish I would have told the board, at the time, I did not tell the board how, we're really specifically told not to go to the board from Scientology.
Right.
And that there could be a lot of other people that this happened to.
Right.
I think that probably would have been the one other thing I could have addressed.
Interesting point. Also, they seem to treat an incident where one person was abused multiple times as just one incident.
Mm-hmm.
How's that any better than 3 people being abused once? One person being abused 3 times is still a history of abuse. But anyway, I know they're just saying anyway. All right. Legal conclusions. The law governing practitioners of chiropractic medicine is found in an initiative. Don't care. Okay. Fast forwarding. Okay. This does provide a lot of information. I just don't think we need to read all of this. It's just basically going over the various things that they could do to him for various different reasons. It's continuing on with that.
It's kind of just breaking down each part of the law that he broke.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Cause does exist to discipline Dr. Bernard. Cause does exist to discipline Dr. Bernard. A determination that cause exists to suspend, or this is a number 11, a determination that cause exists to suspend or revoke Dr. Bernard's license does not end the inquiry. The board has compiled a list of factors to evaluate whether a licensee has been rehabilitated from prior misconduct. Okay. Wow. Okay.
It seems like this was ongoing for a long, really long time.
Yeah, this was ongoing for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Chiropractor license number 12603 issued to Dr. Richard Joseph Bernard is hereby revoked. However, revocation is stayed and respondent is placed on probation for a period of 5 years upon the following terms and conditions. So he didn't even suffer a period of revocation.
I think maybe there was 60 days, something like that. It was like 60 days of his license being revoked. And then he went right into this probation period.
Okay, so one, actual suspension. As part of probation, Dr. Bernard is suspended from the practice of chiropractic for 60 days. Beginning the effective date of this decision, Dr. Bernard shall prominently post a suspension notice provided by the board in a place conspicuous and readable to the public. Yikes. The suspension notice shall remain posted during the entire period of actual suspension. Okay, fine. During probation, Dr. Bernard shall have a third party present while examining and or treating female patients. Respondent now look, if I was Dr. Spearman, I would never in a million years agree to spend my resources to have someone else in the room every time Dr. Bernard was treating a female patient. I'd be like, get the hell out of here. I want nothing to do with you. How am I going to explain to patients why you need to be supervised like a child while treating female patients? I have to ask what thought process, what went into the decision-making process over at Dr. Spearman land that he even agreed to bring this sexual predator under his practice's roof. Like, I don't see why Scientology would even want that to occur. I mean, if I was Scientology, I would tell this guy, you done messed up, revoke your license. We want nothing to do with you.
And it was interesting because I was Dr. Spearman's patient at the time. I would go to Dr. Spearman for muscle testing. And as soon as Richard Bernard showed up in Mike Spearman's office, I was like, what is going on here? Why? That's why I really wanted to highlight Mike Spearman in this video as well, because yeah, I don't know. It was just such a strange, interconnected little situation going on. So I stopped, of course, going to Mike Spearman for muscle testing. But
wow,
yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so Dr. Berman shall, within 30 days of the effective date of this decision, submit to the board or its designee for approval the names of persons who will be the third party present. So let me ask you, do you happen to know if it was Dr. Spearman himself who agreed to be present, or did he designate someone else? Do you happen to know?
No, I'm not sure how they did it.
Okay. Number 3, within 60 days of the effective date of this decision, Dr. Berman shall enroll in a course in ethics approved in advance by the board and shall successfully complete the course during the first year of probation. Classroom attendance is specifically required. Oh, I'm dying to know if they approved the Scientology ethics course. My goodness.
I think they did.
Oh my God.
They did. Yeah.
So Scientology literally made money on it every which way. Okay, he had to submit quarterly reports, probation monitoring, interviewing with the board, reimbursement of board costs. Wow, 20 grand. Okay. Anyway, we have, that's the meat and potatoes of this thing. Now, all of this, I'm going to go back to normal view here. All of this then resulted in, at some point more recently, Dr. Bernard actually just surrendering his license. What was the deal with that?
I think he's older now. So he's retiring. And yeah, I think it's mainly
Okay.
because of his age. Because I think he was, he was older when this happened back then, back in 2012. So
to the best of your knowledge, him surrendering the license was not related to additional reports that were made.
yeah, I think he's just older. He's not doing well health-wise, I heard. I have one friend that's still half in and half out of Scientology in LA, and that friend is friends with Richard Bernard, so I'm always able to find out what's going on with him.
And so, to the best of your knowledge, Dr. Richard Bernard is, well, I guess not a doctor anymore, right? I don't know. Does he? He's still a Scientologist.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Still OT5.
So I'm saying, for you under the radar Scientologists out there, I hope this strengthens your resolve to, one, never actually go back, never go back on course, never go back on lines, never donate any more money, and to do anything you can to kind of, what's the word? I want to say open up people's eyes, but there's some way to do that, of getting people, say whatever you can think of to other people who are in the bubble, who still have their blinders on. How in the world can they continue to support an organization that kicks people out for questioning the strategy, the real estate strategy, the fundraising strategy of Scientology, but protects child abusers, molesters, sexual assaulters? It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Is there anything else that you want to say about all this?
No, just thank you so much for helping me put the word out and expose this situation. I feel so much better knowing that people really know the truth. So,
yeah, my pleasure. Tell you what, before we jump off, I'm going to see if there's any questions for us here.
Okay.
I didn't see many. I just saw a few.
I did want to tell everybody that I uploaded my latest Scientology video, and it's all about exposing where I think the Xenu story was actually poached from. Super, super interesting.
And so the name of your YouTube channel is your name, Yoga Premananda. I realize I don't have your name in the title and I don't have your name on screen. So that's a mistake on my part.
Yeah. Under Yoga Premananda.
Spell your last name for everybody.
Yeah. Premananda, Premananda. And so I go into a pretty deep history lesson of the ancient Greek philosophers and that 500-year period, and where LRH, I think, definitely got the Xenu story from that period. But it's, yeah, very interesting. And I exposed a few of the other plagiarisms that I found out exactly where these datums came from in Scientology. What's true for you is true. That also came from the ancient Greeks. The whole entire scale of gradients, the ARC triangle, the KRC triangle, all of that actually comes from ancient Greek literature. I map it out exactly, dates, which philosophers, exactly the writings that it came from. It's all in the ancient Greek literature. My next video is going to be breaking down this whole Buddhism, how LRH was claiming to be the Buddha reincarnated, which is so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of the Scientology story. I hope gets a lot more airplay. I've said it a bunch of times, but the internet being what it is and attention span being what it is, you have to say it a million times for it actually to become common knowledge, Yeah. And on massive platforms. But that is one of the funniest parts of the Scientology story. Okay, so check this out. He used carotid sinus massage.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so there is a type of massage that
interesting.
Puts you out like a light.
And Upmail, will you please attach the document in the description? I absolutely will. I will attach a document to like a link to Google Docs. Okay, we have another one here. Ron, what does happen to autistic, ADHD, et cetera, kids born into Scientology? Well, they're not managed properly from a medical perspective because Scientologists don't believe in those conditions. So they suffer to the greatest extent that their suffering will allow, or that their condition will allow. They will experience the full extent of any suffering there is to be had. And they really are sort of kept at a bit of an arm's length from the Scientology organization. That's considered there's something wrong with them. They will, in certain circumstances, be allowed to get certain Scientology auditing. They'll usually be allowed to do courses because, they do really believe, Scientologists do really believe what was said in this document, that misunderstood words and evil purposes, evil intentions are what lie underneath any mental condition or emotional condition or neurological condition. And they're just mismanaged. If they're nonverbal, you won't even see a nonverbal autistic child in a Scientology organization. A family with a nonverbal autistic child will be told, do not bring your child around. It is N theta. It upsets people. Don't do it. The 100% you'll be told, do not do that. People with maybe a musculoskeletal disorder, who maybe just have a problem walking, but are cognitively they're fine, verbally they're fine. The individuals with conditions like that are allowed in the org. That's not considered too upsetting.
I wonder if that's why we never saw John Travolta's son, the son that passed away at the events and things like that.
100% why. First of all, they didn't want anybody to know just how bad his condition was. He was completely nonverbal, could not talk. And he had behavioral problems. He was a big kid, and he was a little violent, not intentionally so. It's just he didn't know what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
And so they didn't want anyone to know how bad he was, and they didn't want any problems created. So how bad his condition was, I mean.
Because every time I saw John Travolta at Celebrity Center, I never saw him with his son there. And I know they were very close.
They were very close. He really loved his son. But yeah, that's it's not a good situation when you have kids with actual ailments in Scientology. It tends not to turn out very well. Well, all right, everybody, that is all we've got. Check the description down below for a link to Yoga's channel and for the document that we shared here. And
thank you so much, Aaron.
My pleasure. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.